What up, everybody? Happy Friday. It is another weekend, and because it's the weekend, Giants football's back. We got a game tomorrow. But as always, here we are, Giants Collective, another edition of such. Big shout out to SeatGeek for sponsoring the show tonight. Go to SeatGeek. Link is in the description. Use the promo code Giants Collective. Get $20 off your first purchase. Also, check us out on Spotify, Apple, iHeart, wherever you get your podcast. Links are in the description. You can check us out on TikTok and Instagram as well. If you want to help support the Giants Collective channel, you can become a member. You get your name in the outros. You get the cool emojis, and you get monthly member messages. As always, joined by Adriana. I'm going to say her name 15 different times tonight.
That was right.
I know how to say it, but like I said, my mind knows, but it doesn't always transfer for some reason. I don't know. I try to say it right every time. We got Chris over there. We got Anthony. Anthony looks very serious. He's focused. He's ready for the game. He's ready to go. So obviously, I love doing this show, by the way. We had so much fun last time. Chris was the star of the show at the ad read. A lot of positive feedback on that ad read, and it was fantastic. But obviously, we have a game tomorrow. We're going to take on. I keep saying we're playing the Bills. I've had a long week. We're playing the Jets. I don't know why I keep saying we're playing the Bills. We have it's not even really interstate rivals. I mean, our stadium rivals, if you want to call it that. I don't really consider the Jets a rivalry. But obviously we saw some guys not play last week, like Hyatt, Evan Neal, Cordell Flott, but they seem to be back at practice. Looked like they're slated to go tomorrow. Adriana, is there something you're looking for from any of these players or anybody else in particular against the Jets?
I'm really excited about those three because I feel like those three players specifically really have the opportunity to prove to the front office that they deserve, whether it's a starting role or a rotational role, that they deserve it. Jalen Hyatt was having a really good summer before he dealt with this injury. And it seems like, he put this weight on in the offseason. He's really liking what Russ is bringing to the team. He was the first player to go out and do a private workout with him. So it felt like Hyatt was able to put everything in the past and move forward. And we were going to get, to see more Jalen Hyatt, see him utilized in this offense and whatnot. So I think a lot of fans, I was really excited when they drafted him. I was like, finally, we're going to see the Hyatt that I've been waiting for. And, setbacks like these injuries, it is what it is. There's nothing you can do about them, but it's just a bummer. So I'm excited to see him out there, knowing that we're not going to see Malik Neighbors. We are going to see the starters, and we're going to see Russell Wilson. I expect to see Jalen Hyatt make some plays tomorrow when he gets targeted. So I'm excited to watch him. Same thing goes for Evan Neal. I mean, we didn't get to see him last week, and he's another guy who they finally moved to guard, which we've all been begging for, and who's been kind of up and down, but have had some good plays and some not some good plays. And again, he has the opportunity to beat out GVR for the starting right guard. So I want to see him do it. I think that's the best case scenario for everyone. GVR is fine, but he's not like an all-pro right guard where there's no chance of anyone beating him out. So I'm really looking for Evan Neal to step up in the passing game. He's done a nice job with the run blocking, but I really want to see if on those pass plays he can do his job and block whoever is coming his way to give the quarterback some time to make a play. And was the third one Flott?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, Flott, Neal, and Hyatt. Yeah.
Flott, I think everyone is a little concerned about the secondary, knowing that Banks hasn't looked amazing. And now he's injured. He didn't practice on Wednesday, so I'm not sure if he's going to play. Knowing Dable, he's probably not going to play. And we didn't get to see Flott last week. So, I kind of feel like all Cordell Flott has to do is get a couple pass breakups and an interception, and we're all going to love him. So I just want him to make some plays again. We've all been really frustrated with Banks. I'm like, with Flott, just go out there and don't piss us off at this point, right? They're probably going to bring someone in on waivers, but I'm like, come on, just one of you give us confidence that if you go out there, you're not going to screw it up. That's all. My expectations are so low for so many players on this Giants team that I'm like, that's literally it. Just don't piss me off and get a DPI, and I'll be happy with you.
What's the watch today?
My Seiko Daytona.
Sweet.
I love the green dial.
Yeah, Chris. What are you looking for from those three players? What are you looking for from anybody else?
I'll tell you what, Jalen Hyatt, if he does play, which it looks like he's going to, he better show up. Like I think everybody had it as a lock that he was definitely going to make this roster, be the wide receiver 4. He misses the first preseason game. So some of these other receivers look like they have really good chemistry with Jackson Dart in practice and training camp. That's what you've heard. And they looked really good in that first preseason game, notably Humphrey and Washington. So the heat is on for Jalin Hyatt. I still obviously am leaning he's going to make this team if the New York Giants don't trade him before the year starts. But I think he's got a lot of pressure going into tomorrow. And Evan Neal. Evan Neal was the guy that I was most excited to see outside of Jackson Dart, of course, who I'm, again, the most excited to see week 2 to see if he could build off of his week 1 performance. But Evan Neal was the guy that I was second most excited to see how he could transition to that guard spot. So I'm happy to hear that he's been practicing this week and likely will get an opportunity to play with the New York Giants, hopefully first-team offense, if not second-team offense in the second preseason game. So I'll definitely have my eye on him. But yeah, a lot of pressure, I think, at least on Jalin Hyatt going into the second preseason game. I don't think it's a absolute lock that he's even going to make this team. So I think he's got to play relatively well tomorrow.
Sorry about that. My wife's doing state reporting, so she's working late. I'm doing dad duties. So.
What is on the back of your chair, Bad Dog? Who is that?
That's Blanche. It's the Golden Girls blanket. So it's all the Golden Girls. And actually, my Golden Doodle's name is Blanche. But yeah, my wife got me the blanket. I forget that it's even back there. But yep, we got Blanche, got them all. The Golden Girls.
Amazing.
We all have guilty pleasure. It's not even a guilty pleasure. The Golden Girls kick ass, and everybody knows it. Anthony, what are you looking forward to tomorrow from those 2 players or anybody else?
Well, from Evan Neal, I hope that he starts. I want to see him against starting talent because obviously he's listed as the second string right guard, but what are you really going to learn about him if he's only going in there midway through the first quarter and then playing against the backups? I want to see him go up against the starters and get those reps. And Greg Van Roten, we already know what he is. I don't think the team needs to be evaluating Greg Van Roten all that closely. He's about an average guard, and he's always been about an average guard. I don't think you're going to learn anything new from him in the preseason, but you can learn a lot about Evan Neal in this preseason. So I want to see him play a lot. I think that he should play that whole first half the same way that Deonte Banks played that whole first half last week. The intention behind that, as Brian Daboll said, was Deonte Banks needs the reps. He needs the work. So does Evan Neal. And I think that would be a good strategy to take once again here and just give all of those reps to Evan Neal and make him really earn it, or at least give him the opportunity to earn it. Obviously, it can hurt him if he doesn't perform well. Then they're going to roll with Greg Van Roten in week 1 most likely. But they can really bring out a center stage here for Evan Neal and say, prove it. Prove that you're the man for this job and, put in a great effort for a whole first half and go up against some starters and compete. So that's what I hope to see from Evan Neal. For Jalin Hyatt, are we even certain that he's playing? Because I know that he was practicing, but I don't think he was participating in team drills, if I'm not mistaken. And I think Daboll requires team drills practicing before you're allowed to play in a game. So he might not even play. If he doesn't play, I think you can put a nail in the coffin, honestly.
If he doesn't play, because Anthony, I'm going to tell you what. I think
going.
there's a good chance he doesn't make this team.
You think they cut him? Or
I think it's in play, yeah. I think
it's definitely in play. Maybe they try and trade him. I don't know what they would get for him, but you really look at it this summer, he hasn't accomplished much. Meanwhile, you've got guys like Bo Collins who've been turning heads every single practice. Montrell Washington, all the time that he's missed and all the time that's been afforded to these other wide receivers battling for these roster spots, they've made some impressive plays and they've proven that they can be more available throughout the summer. And they've already developed chemistry with some of these quarterbacks. And Jalin Hyatt doesn't have much chemistry with Dart or Russell Wilson right now because he barely played this summer. I mean, he had a couple of nice plays when he was on the field, but he wasn't on the field enough. And I don't even think he made as many plays when he was on the field as Bo Collins has on a practice-by-practice basis, and even Montrell Washington. So I definitely think his roster spot is up in the air. It's disappointing to say that. Former third-round pick. Giants traded up to draft him too. Former Fred Biletnikoff award winner. I would love to see this kid be successful, and I definitely think he has the raw physical talent, but it just hasn't shown up on the field, and he hasn't shown up on the field enough. He's been hurt too much this summer. And then for Cordell Flott, I think that, again, like Deonte Banks got that first half treatment, like I think Evan Neal should, so should Cordell Flott. I think that's the best way to get a good barometer here between him and Deonte Banks, give them the same number of reps in a back-to-back week period. So I just want to see Cordell Flott play a lot. That rhymed unintentionally, but that's what I really want to see. Whether he makes some plays or not, whatever, but I just need to see him play the whole first half, because if he only goes out there for 2 drives, meanwhile you had Deonte Banks out there for an entire half, it's not a fair comparison. And I think that's what's happening here is a comparison. So that's what I mainly want to see is Cordell Flott play the whole first half.
I think what's interesting is we've talked about this before, like some of these battles, like Greg Van Roten's spot is not like secure. If Evan Neal goes out there and outplays him, it's very possible Evan Neal is the starting right guard. And you could say the same thing about Cordell Flott. Deonte Banks still having a hard time getting his head around, and it's not secure. I mean, if Cordell Flott goes out there and shows out, I mean, these guys have an opportunity to become starters, and I think you want to see them really take the bull by the horns and play really good football. I'm definitely anxious to see Evan Neal. I think we're all anxious to see what Evan Neal could do at guard. Again, when you're the 7th overall pick, you can't just give up on talent. And if this guy becomes a decent guard, at the very least, at least they would have got something out of him. And then like Greg Van Roten, who's in his 30s, man, Evan Neal is still a young guy. And if he can develop as a guard, you might be able to get him on the cheap because he's probably not going to command a ton of money. And if you think that he's got a lot of potential to be your future right guard, then that'd be the best case scenario if they feel he could be the future right guard, because then you don't have to go look for one and you don't have to overpay one either. So I'm really anxious to see Evan Neal. I think that's the guy that I'm looking at the most tomorrow. As far as Jalen Hyatt goes, I was a huge fan of Jalen Hyatt. I was so pumped up when they got him. It has been a disappointment, to say the least, when it comes to Jalen Hyatt's lack of production, lack of availability. And to your point, Anthony, there's a lot of guys out there that could take a spot. I mean, you mentioned Washington, you mentioned Will Collins. Don't forget little Jordan Humphreys, the one that caught the touchdown from Jackson Dart in the last game. So there's a lot of competition there. And hey, listen, if they can get that was our phones. If you can get anything for Jalen Hyatt, you might want to do it. It just doesn't seem like he fits in here, and it's a shame to say because it's so much, like Russell Wilson said, untapped potential, and it seems like that's what it's going to be here, that he's not going to live up to his potential. Now, one thing I'm going to say, and people are going to kill me for it, there's another guy that wore 13 here, and if you don't want to keep Jalen Hyatt, there's a guy that I know he's not going to be extremely productive, but I'm going to keep saying it. There's a guy here that made 13 famous.
He's right behind Anthony's head, right? That's the picture of the catch. Right?
You could bring him in. It ain't going to hurt. I'm telling you, man, bring him in. League minimum, he'll take it. Let him be a leader, man. Bring him back. Make the Giants fans happy. It'd be cool to see him go full circle. In my heart of hearts, I don't think that's going to happen, but in my fandom, I'm hoping for nostalgia purposes, that'd be great if he could just come back for 1 year, even if he caught 9 catches. I don't care.
Supposedly, he's talking to some teams, so the Giants could be one of them.
Yeah. Chris, what are we looking for from Jackson Dart? My kid's calling me again. What are we looking for from Jackson Dart? Sorry, I'll be right back.
Yeah. More of the same from last week. I mean, at the end of the day, just continue to grow, continue to look more comfortable, with the playbook, with the players on this roster. Hopefully we get to see Jackson Dart with some of the starters this week. The starters that, at the wide receiver spot didn't really play last week outside of Wandell, who I don't think got to play with Jackson Dart, if I'm not mistaken. I think he only played with Russ. So hopefully we get to see him with Darius Slayton, maybe for a drive or two, to get acclimated to the guys that you think he'll be the quarterback for as the year progresses, being that we all think he's probably going to be the starting quarterback at least for the last 4 or 5 games or so. So it'd be cool to get to see him play with the first team offense, but more of the same, man. I think we all agreed that we were most impressed with his situational awareness, pocket awareness, his ability to scan the field. I want to continue to see more of that. He looks comfortable at the quarterback position, something that we didn't really get to see with Daniel Jones. So, just more of the same from Jackson Dart. Just continue to grow.
Anthony, I'm running back and forth. Do you think Jackson Dart's going to get any time with the starters? Because he didn't play with the starters. Could you see him playing with the starters this game? I mean, I should ask you this. I should have asked you this, Chris, but I was in a hurry. We can go back around, though. How much do you think Russell Wilson plays in this game?
Well, what did he play last week? 2 drives?
1 drive. I think
only one drive.
1 drive? Probably the half of the first quarter, I would think. I think they ramp him up a little bit week by week, maybe in week 3. Is it in week 3 that they usually sit all the starters, or do they play them for like a full quarter?
It's kind of different now because it's not when it used to be 4 games. You would play the starters would play the majority of the time in game 3.
That was a dress rehearsal.
And then you'd have all the back end of the rosters guys playing game 4. And today it's kind of because it's only 3 games. I feel like you can't really go by that formula. I feel like the starters should play all 3 games, at least to some capacity.
Well, I think he'll play more. At the very least, I think we will see some more Russell Wilson. I don't know if Jackson Dart gets any reps with the starters. Maybe, though, I think that would be a good idea to give him at least a couple of reps since he has been getting some reps with the ones in practice. It would make sense to give him a drive with the starters, in my opinion. Like you have Russ go out there, say 3 drives, if that's the number. And then after that drive or that third drive, for the fourth drive, the starting receivers and offensive line stay out there, but Jackson Dart goes out there. And then from the following drives, then Jackson Dart is with the 2s. I think that's probably the best way to do that because it's kind of similar to what they've done during training camp, where he's only getting a small portion of reps with the 1s, and you're not overtiring the starters either. So that would be my guess on it.
Adriana, how long do you think Russ plays, and do you think Jackson Dart sees any time with the starters?
Yeah, I agree with what Anthony said. It wouldn't surprise me at all if we see Jackson Dart in with the starters. I think we'll definitely see more of Russ. I think there's a potential that we could see him as much as a full quarter, obviously, depending on how things go, because of what Dable has said about the injury research, that this is basically the safest time for the players to play. So I could definitely see them playing as much as that. I think the only starter that's healthy that we will not see across the board is Dexter Lawrence because he played in the joint practices with the Jets. It won't surprise me if we don't see him. But I am starting to get the feeling that if Jackson Dart continues to improve and impress as much as he has, that we're going to see Dart earlier than we probably thought we were. And I think that Dable is starting to think like maybe I should give him some reps with the 1s in case that's a possibility. I think if they had an easier schedule, this would probably not be a conversation. And I know so many of us, myself included, do not want to see Jackson Dart this year. But I'm starting to feel like, and it's weird because the whole like national media is like the Giants are an underdog team. Other teams should be concerned about them now because of the defensive line, Abdul Carter, Russell Wilson and Malik Neighbors, like all of these things. And while I agree with them, and I think that the Giants have the possibility to win more games than a lot of us think, even if the Giants only win 8 games and, they're have 6 wins by the middle of December, like we're probably going to see Jackson Dart at that point because we're going to be out of the playoffs. I think as soon as we're out of the playoffs, we're going to see Dart. If we're like 0-4, then I don't know. Is there a possibility that we see Dart that early? We probably see Winston first, but I'm just getting the feeling that like Dable's going to slowly try and work Dart in here and there. And I think this is going to be the first instance where we see it in a game where he puts him in with the starters and see how he handles it and then sees maybe how next week goes. I don't think that means we're going to see Dart anywhere before week like 8, unless we're 0-7, but yeah, I don't know. I just feel like Dable is like so weirdly obsessed with him. And the fact that he is so like openly gushing about him, I'm like, he loves this guy. Like I would not be surprised if we see him earlier, even though we're all like, don't do it. It's not necessary.
Yeah.
That's how he was with Josh Allen though, too. And Josh Allen ended up starting by week 2. They were the intention was for Nathan Peterman to start week 8, somewhere around there. And then Josh Allen gets in. But same way that he is about Dart all throughout training camp, can't stop raving about him and just super excited about him. That's how he was about Josh Allen. So
a little different though, Anthony. A little different though, Anthony. Nathan Peterman versus Russell Wilson. A little different.
It's a little different, but there will be some people on social media who will try and convince you it's not that different.
Oh, I agree.
Russ is pretty washed up. I don't think Russ is as washed up as other people do, but some people will tell you it's not that different.
Yeah, I think it's a little apples and oranges situation, though. Josh Allen was, the 7th pick? Nathan Peterman was arguably the worst quarterback in the league. Russell Wilson is still a competent quarterback. Jackson Dart was a back end of the first-round pick. I don't doubt the pressure is going to be there. We're already seeing the pressure from the fan base, right? There's fans on Twitter already calling for Jackson Dart to start. I'm sure the media is going to be there if the Giants do start slow. And I do agree with Adriana's point. If the team starts 0-4 or 0-5, yeah, I think at that point, Dable's probably going to get an itchy trigger finger, and he's going to probably try to throw Dart in there to try to save his job. But ideally for me, it doesn't go that way. I want them to be able to maximize the ability for Jackson Dart to learn on the bench as long as they can this year, so we don't screw him up. We have one opportunity to do this. Once you put him in there, you can't take him out. I want him to be completely ready before the Giants, unleash him to the rest of the NFL. So if they feel it's week 7, let's rock and roll. But ideally, like I've talked about all along, at least I want them to get to the bye and then insert Jackson Dart. But he's definitely going to see the field this year.
By the way, if you're enjoying the show, guys, don't forget to hit the thumbs up. That helps us out big. And subscribe to the channel. Costs nothing. We're over 5,300 subscribers. Keep climbing, baby. Let's go. Chris, how long do you think Russell Wilson plays tomorrow?
Quarter. I agree with what Adriana said. I think he plays a quarter. That might be 2 drives, maybe 3. I think he plays the first quarter. And then you probably see Dart for a quarter and a half, and same with Winston, maybe to close out the game. So I'll go a quarter for us. I think it's a more of an expanded look this week.
I would agree. I think it's a quarter. During the dress rehearsals, it used to be a half. So Russ is a veteran. I mean, obviously he hasn't been on this team before, and he really could use reps in order to, not that he doesn't know what he's doing, but, it's good to get timing down with your linemen, your wide receivers, and learn the intricacies of their patterns, their routes, their habits, whatever, so you can get on the same page with these guys when it matters most. I don't think it'll be 2 quarters, but I think a quarter, maybe a quarter, and a drive into the second quarter. Maybe they do. Maybe they do take Russ out after a drive or 2 and try Jackson Dart with the starters. Maybe the starters go a full half and Wilson only goes a quarter. I mean, I don't know what Daboll's going to do. As far as the Jackson Dart situation goes, listen, I can say I was guilty in 2019 when we started off 0-2, and I knew Eli Manning was not much longer for the team because they drafted Daniel Jones. I'm like, I wanted to see Daniel Jones. We have nothing to lose. We're not a good team. Put him in there. And obviously it wasn't just that stunted us. He just wasn't a good quarterback, and the Giants are not a good team. But looking back at a revisionist history, which everybody loves to visit, you overreacted. I mean, well, when you're in the moment, man, you can always go back and go, well, that was wrong. I mean, it's easy to do it that way, but in the moment, I mean, things are way different. Hindsight's always 20/20. So this time, I don't think the Giants want to do that. Mara's still the owner. I know I don't want to see it. I want to see Jackson Dart come in when he's ready to come in. I want the Giants to have a really good team around him because, like you mentioned, Chris, if you bring him in week 5, there is no taking him out of there because 2 things are going to happen. Number one, if you take him out of there willingly, not because he's injured, well, now it looks like you don't believe in him. And number 2, you're going to shatter the kid's confidence. I don't want to see him until the bye. I don't care if we start off 0-8. I don't want to see him. I just don't. You're just going to have to suck it up and go, this sucks. Now, I don't think the Giants are going 0-8, and I don't think they're going 0-5. I think the Giants are going to be a very competitive team this year. Doesn't necessarily we're going to mean we're going to win 12 games. I don't see that. But I think they're going to be in every game. I think they're going to be competitive, and I think they're going to sneak out a couple wins early. I really do. This defense is going to keep us in every game. Russell Wilson does not turn the ball over. As long as the offense doesn't make mistakes like they did in 2022, where they weren't a high-flying offense, but they didn't turn the ball over. Daniel Jones led the league in interception percentage that year, and the defense was really good. We need the postseason. There's no reason to think that can't happen this year. Carl Banks says it best. Strength of schedule is a myth. There is no strength of schedule. You're going by what happened last year. Well, that doesn't matter now. Dak has beat us. We ain't beat Dak in 8 years. What the hell has that got to do with game 2? It has nothing to do with it. That's what happened in the past. All that matters is that Sunday. So I don't want to see Jackson Dart earlier than we have to, but I do understand if we get off to a bad start, everybody clamoring. He's a rookie. He's going to be your future, you hope. The media is going to be on Daboll. The fans, you're going to be like, when are we going to see Jackson Dart? You're off to a bad start. If you consider putting Jackson Dart in, you know how the New York media is. You know how the fan base is. So there's going to be a lot of pressure, and he just has to kind of resist the temptation to put him in there too soon. But definitely rooting for him, and I was very impressed by what he did last week. To Anthony's point, just talking about his poise in the pocket, the ability to manipulate the pocket, to move around, to make that throw to Washington on 2nd down and 15, to check to little Jordan Humphrey one-on-one and throw a perfect pass down the sideline, getting hit right in the chest. And those are veteran moves for a young quarterback, and you just love to see that. So there's no reason not to be optimistic about Jackson Dart, but at the same time, again, I don't want to throw him into a bad situation and stun his growth, because that would be the worst thing we could do. We did that with our last quarterback. I don't want that to happen again. So see your questions coming in. We're going to get to those right after this. Again, remember the video or the stream tonight is brought to us by our good friends at SeatGeek. Click the link in the description under the promo code Giants Collective. Get $20 off your first purchase. Let's hear from our sponsor. 90 seconds. Back after this.
What's up, everybody? Giants training camp is here, and man, do the Giants look different and exciting this year. That's why I'm excited to go and see the New York Giants in person this year at MetLife Stadium. That's also why I want to give the sponsor of today's video, SeatGeek, a huge shout out. With over 28 million downloads, SeatGeek is the #1 rated ticketing app. There's more than 70,000 events listed on SeatGeek, including concerts, sports, festivals, and more. The NFL is right around the corner, and MLB is in full swing. I love using SeatGeek. I'm thinking about going to that Giants-Chargers game at the end of September. I'm going to go with a couple of buddies. I'm going to go on the SeatGeek app. I'm going to look for 3 tickets. I'm going to click those 3 tickets, and I'm going to sit there. And I'm going to scroll around and see which seats I think are best for me, which seats are the best out there, and I'm going to pick the ones I want. It's very easy to use. SeatGeek has your back, and each ticket is rated on a scale of 1 to 10, so you know if you're getting a good deal. Look for the green dots. Green means good, red means bad. Plus, every ticket is backed by their buyer guarantee. And know that Giants Collective came through for you guys. You can use the code Giants Collective for $20 off of tickets at SeatGeek. That's $20 off your first purchase using the promo code Giants Collective. Make sure you click the link in the description to download the app and have the code automatically added to your account so you can use it later. Thank you, SeatGeek, for sponsoring the video and the live stream. And let's go, Giants.
Damn right. I know people are disappointed to see my ugly mug on the read, but hopefully, the sponsor of the last show, hopefully they join as well as SeatGeek and whatever, because everybody really enjoyed the star of the show last. I know I did. Also want to shout out Papa Guzzo. I see him in the chat, so it's always good to see Papa Guzzo back. One thing we didn't touch on, and then we'll get to your questions. I thought about this while that ad was running. Anthony, we'll start with you. Obviously, one guy, we were really impressed with a lot of the rookies last week, but one rookie we haven't seen is Cam Skattebo. He had that hamstring injury, and now it seems like he's questionable, not going to play this week, but he's questionable. Hey, he may not be ready for week 1 of the regular season. How disappointing is it for Cam Skattebo? And is it possible that he loses like that backup spot and ends up being maybe the 3rd or 4th string behind Singletary and Dante Miller?
Well, I don't know if he's really going to be that backup running back. I think that the Giants are going to look at this as Tyrone Tracy Jr. is the lead back. He's the #1, and then behind him is a rotation. So I don't think that it's going to be set where the second guy on the depth chart gets more reps than the third guy. I think that's going to be more of an even split. But I do think this does open an opportunity for Dante Miller to make the roster, because if they place Cam Skattebo on PUP to start the season, 3 weeks, I think, and then they can activate him after that. But that's 3 weeks that Dante Miller can be on the roster, and during the regular season prove that he's valuable enough to stick with the team, and they can shed some fat elsewhere on the roster. So this is a major opportunity for Dante Miller. Obviously, he was the offensive player of the game last week. If he does that again or has another strong performance, his case for making the roster continues to increase as it has all summer. And then I think going into the regular season, if Skattebo isn't going to be ready for week 1, you could probably bet that Dante Miller is going to go ahead and get himself a roster spot. So I think this is huge news for Turbo, but it is also disappointing news for Giants fans who want to see Skattebo score some touchdowns and break some tackles. I'm hoping that he's able to get healthy ASAP, but those hamstring injuries, this is kind of the conversation that we had when it popped up, they linger and they're very easy to re-aggravate. So hopefully he's able to get in shape sooner rather than later. But this honestly isn't the most shocking news to me. And I could see him being out for quite a while, considering the nature of these hamstring injuries.
That sucks. I started giggling because your dad says I need to shave, and I do, Papa G. I know. Trust me. We're going to do that right after this show. Adriana, what do you think? How disappointing is it that Skattebo doesn't look like he's ready for week 1? And how great of an opportunity is it for Turbo Miller? I mean, maybe it's a blessing in disguise.
Yeah, it's a real bummer about Scat, because so many of us were so excited about drafting him, and then you see him in camp and you're like, yes, this is like exactly, it's kind of like the Abdul Carter pick. Like, we all were so excited about it, and then you see him on the field and you're like, yes, he's like exactly what I hoped he would be, even better. So, especially the running back thing with everything that happened with Saquon, it's like we finally have a great running back in here that we're super excited about. We've seen good out of Tyrone Tracy. Thinking about about pairing the two of them once the season starts is really exciting. And then, he gets injured and it's such a bummer. It just is. But I'm not worried about it long term. Hopefully he's going to end up being fine. And I know that once Scat gets on the field, he's going to be everything that we hoped he was going to be, based on what we've seen from college and in camp so far. So I'm not worried about that. It's just disappointing because I know we were all so excited to see him, but we're going to see him at some point and hopefully sooner rather than later. But, I've been a big fan of Turbo and I was really impressed with what he did last week. Like Anthony said, he led the receivers with the 80 yards. He's not even a wide receiver. And, I think it's just going to be able to open up this offense a bit. So I'm excited to see that. And his speed, you just can't replace. And, when we all talk about how we're kind of like over Singletary, it's like you look at Singletary and you look at someone like Turbo and, Singletary brings stuff to the table. He's not a bum out there. But when you watch someone like Turbo, he's just more electric and fun. And the speed just brings a different aspect to the offense. And it brings an explosiveness that this offense has not had, especially when Malik Neighbors is not on the field. So I think it's really going to have a great opportunity this weekend to do it in back-to-back weeks and prove like I was a little part of this team last year. I think he only got moved up from the practice squad maybe once or twice. So I think he's going to have that opportunity to really showcase and make them force the hand and say, this is a really tough decision. And you're either going to have to pick between me and Singletary, or you're going to have to keep us both. And when I get an opportunity to get on the field, I'm going to make the most of it. And that's what we saw from him last week. And I have total faith that he can do it again this week. And I'm really excited to watch him.
Chris, how disappointing is it that Scatterbo looks like he could miss the first week of the season? And again, how much maybe is it a blessing in disguise that Turbo Miller can showcase his talent?
I don't think it's going to have much of effect on the wins and losses for this team early on in the year, but he was just a player that I think myself and most Giants fans were just super excited to see. He's exciting. He's going to help improve the backfield, no doubt about it, but I never viewed him as a guy that was going to have a tremendous impact on the win-loss column in his rookie year for the New York Giants, especially early on. I think he's a guy that I kind of viewed that would slowly get an expanded role as the year prolonged at the running back spot. But yeah, like Anthony said, it could end up being a blessing in disguise because it ensures for the most part, Turbo Miller is going to make this roster. Now, if Scatterbo was healthy, they had needed to find a way to make Turbo Miller make this roster. But I think this almost makes him a shoo-in, assuming he's able to stay healthy throughout the rest of the preseason, that he's going to be a New York Giant this year. So it could work out to be a blessing in disguise because maybe you find lightning in a bottle with him. He certainly looked really impressive the first game. So I don't think it really has much of an effect in terms of whether or not we're going to win week one, whether Scatterbo plays or not. But he would, we're all excited to see him play. Obviously, one of the more exciting rookies on the roster.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know how much of an impact he would have had. I think just from a fan's perspective to be able to watch him play, because he was just kicking ass in practice, and you can tell he's just a gamer. You can tell he brings a toughness to this team. He brings an attitude to this team, and these are things that we haven't had in a while, and you like that hard-nosed, tough running back. We haven't had that. As much as Saquon Barkley was a beast as far as physical specimen, he wasn't really a guy that ran through people. And it always seemed like we struggled on third down, and maybe that's because they stuffed the box, and it was hard for Barkley to run into a stuffed box like that. But I feel like Scatterbo is the type of guy that isn't going to take many losses when he runs. I feel like he's the type of guy that falls forward, and even when he's hit initially, he can still get those yards after contact. And I feel like that's something we've missed. So I think more than anything, it's just kind of disappointing that we were not going to get to see him play. But at the same token, to see what Dante Miller did last week and know how excited we were to see this kid who just runs a sub 4.340 and moves at a different speed than everybody, perhaps it is a blessing in disguise. He can showcase what he has. And if he continues to have a really good preseason, like Adriana said, they're going to have a tough decision. And that's what you want if you're Dante Miller. You want to say, all right, try to cut me, see, can you cut me? Make it impossible for them to cut you. Maybe they do carry 4 running backs. It's very possible they've done this in the past. So I think if Dante Miller has, a really good game today and on Thursday against the Patriots, or tomorrow, and then Thursday against the Patriots, I don't think he gets cut. I think he makes the team, and I hope he does, because like Adriana said, again, this is a guy that can take anything to the house. And it would be nice to have that explosive back. Tracy's really good, But Dante Miller has a different gear than everybody else. If you can get him out in space, or you can set those screens up for him and he can get away from the defenders, you're not catching him if he gets out in front of everybody. So that's another threat that the Giants can have when it comes to the offense. And Lord knows you can't have enough threats when it comes to the Giants offense. So I'm anxious to see what Miller does, but I definitely wish Cam Scadaboo a speedy recovery, and I hope that he's ready to go week 1. Let's get to some of your questions. The stars in the house again tonight. Age 50, thank you so much. Says, I can't wait to see Darth Vader light it up and beat the Jets this weekend. How excited are we for Abdul?
Okay, but did you guys see after Dart threw the touchdown to little Jordan Humphrey, when he got to the sideline and saw Abdul Carter, they did a Star Wars celebration? Did anyone see that?
Yeah, I didn't see that. No.
It was really cool.
It was awesome. I love that him and Gat seemed super close. Like, you could always tell the way they came out to practice together, but you see it with him and Abdul too. And it's just, I know we have talked about this, like the fact that it seems like there's a different energy and they spend a lot of time together and these guys are all very close. And I hope that it translates on the field, but it is fun to see that different side of them where you get to see like these different types of relationships and how Russell Wilson has a handshake with like literally every player on the offense. Like, it's silly. And for the fans, it's fun, but ultimately I hope that translates to good play on the field. But I saw that and I was like, oh, these guys could be the future of the franchise. Let's go.
Yeah.
One thing I also noticed about Russ, Chris and I mentioned this when we did the game, was he was helping everybody up. Like, they're on the sideline, he's over there picking all of his teammates up. And again, I know I say this a lot, but it just feels different. There's a different energy. If you're a Giants fan, I don't know how you don't sense it. And maybe it is because these young guys are just bringing a different energy. And, you know, there's a lot to be excited about. These guys look good so far. I mean, you can only judge by what we've seen. But, yeah, I hope Jackson Dart continues to impress. And I didn't even talk about it. I threw Abdul Carter out there just because I wanted to, because I'm just anxious to see Abdul Carter just whoop some ass. I'm anxious to see the front seven, but definitely anxious to see Jackson Dart. And I'm just wondering if he'll play with some of the stars. I would really love it. It's not going to happen this week, but I don't think it's going to happen in the preseason because Neighbors isn't going to play the third game. But I would have loved to have seen Dart and Neighbors on the field at the same time. Just to
You'll get to see it at some point this year. You'll get to see it at some point.
Yeah, but hopefully it's later, not sooner.
Later.
You know?
Yeah.
But yeah, it'll be fun. This game will be fun. Our guy SPP Williams from the UK across the pond. Again, a huge, just big shout out to him. It's 12:41 over there in the UK. What up? Happy Collective Friday. I want to see Justin Fields going backwards every single down.
Me too.
What do you guys think of that? So supposedly, and Adriana, I know you were there, you said Wednesday, right?
Yeah.
Justin Fields had a very hard time completing anything down the field. So how well does that speak to what our front seven's doing to Justin Fields?
I love it. And what I want to say is before that happened, so that was during the 11 on 11s, but I was mostly focused on the defense. So I was able to see all of this. And I'm seeing these tweets from like Jets beat writers that are like, Justin Fields and the Jets offense are killing it out there. Justin Fields is 12 for 13, hitting every wide receiver. I'm like, what the hell are they watching? They were talking about the 7-on-7s. I'm like, no one gives a shit about the 7-on-7s. You get to the 11-on-11s and Justin Fields is pressured every single play and has to throw the ball away. And then he gets sacked. He would have been sacked by Brian Burns like 4 times. So he's going to get nailed tomorrow. Don't you worry.
Good. I'm not going to get into the beat writers. As some of you know, I had a little dust up with one of them.
That was a good segue.
Yeah, I had a little dust up with one of them on Twitter. Shameless plug. Follow me on Twitter and see what that's all about. And, Ryan Dunleavy, you're number 1, buddy. There you go. What are you guys looking for, Chris, Anthony? What are you looking for from the defense? How good can this Justin Fields, how much is he going to struggle tomorrow?
The scary thing is with the defense, like specifically the pass rush, because that's kind of what we're talking about here with Abdul Carter. We're not even getting a real glimpse of what the pass rush is yet, because Dexter Lawrence isn't on the field. It's a completely different animal when you have the best interior defensive lineman in football on the field, paired with Abdul Carter, paired with Brian Burns. So we're not even getting the full glimpse yet. But last week, albeit preseason. I don't want to get too excited. They had Mitch Trubisky at quarterback. It's not like it's Josh Allen. I get all that. But the pass rush looked phenomenal with the first team defense, even without Dexter Lawrence out there. But Bad Dog, I'm going to tell you what, the more I think about this season, and I don't want to get too optimistic and I don't want to set expectations too high, I just think this unit is way too good for the Giants to win five or six games this year. I think they're going to find a way to win 7 or 8 games this year because of this, and hopefully more, but because of this pass rush. I think they're going to keep them in games. When you have a unit as good as I think this unit is going to be, you're going to give yourself a chance each and every week. So I can't wait for – I mean, of course, I'm excited to see it more tomorrow, but we don't really get the real feel for it until we get to see Dexter Lawrence out there, because when you got to account for him and you got a talent like Abdul Carter coming off the edge or even playing off the middle, we saw how they utilized him there in that first preseason game. The Giants defense is going to be a force to be reckoned with that pass rush. There's no doubt about it.
There's still no Dexter Lawrence, obviously. Anthony, how great of an opportunity is this for Darius Alexander? I know you talked about him in the last show, that maybe he's not really showing up on film, but we did see some really good things for him the other day. And again, he's an older rookie and he's obviously a 3rd round pick. So it's not fair to expect from him what you will Abdul Carter, but how big of an opportunity is this for Alexander with no Dexter Lawrence?
I think it's a pretty big opportunity, but it's still a big opportunity for the other guys in front of him too, with Rakeem Nunez-Roches, with Roy Robertson-Harris, and these other guys who are competing to be in that starting lineup. Because right now, I don't think the Giants necessarily view Darius Alexander as a guy that they want starting in week 1. I think, again, he's a 3rd-round rookie, and they're going to take their time with him the same way we expect they'll take their time with Jackson Dart. Same way I think they're going to take their time with Cam Scadaboo and some of these other guys that they drafted. I think they're going to be patient with these rookies. The Giants finally are in a position where they don't need their rookies playing a significant amount of snaps, and that's a great thing. They finally have some depth, and they finally have a starting 11 on each side of the ball established. Obviously, Abdul Carter is an exception to the rule because he's an elite talent. But for these other guys, I mean, it wasn't normal for Tyrone Tracy Jr. to be starting as a 5th-round rookie, for Tyler Nubin to be playing 100% of snaps up until he got hurt as a 2nd-round rookie, for Drew Phillips to immediately be an integral starter in the defense, for Theo Johnson to be the starting tight end. That's not normal, and that's usually not okay for all of the rookies to instantly become starters like that, unless you're talking about a Neighbor 6th overall or a Carter 3rd overall. So for Darius Alexander, I'm not setting expectations high for him, not even in this preseason game, because he's a developmental guy, as most rookies should be. I think when you look at teams like Philadelphia and, the Cowboys haven't had a lot of postseason success, obviously, but they're one of the better drafting teams in the NFL statistically. A lot of their rookies in the middle rounds do not play in the first year, or at least do not play a lot. It takes a while for those guys to come on and to develop, and that's because they draft well and they have good starting talent. So again, for Darius Alexander, not setting high expectations, going to stay patient with him. I would love to see him have a good performance here against the Jets, and really anytime he's on the field, so that we can feel like maybe by year's end he can become a starter. But that's what it is. I'm not looking at him to get on the field sooner rather than later. I'd rather just wait for him until he's fully ready, same way we feel about Dart and some of these other guys.
You mentioned this last year, how you can tell like we were a thin team because, like you mentioned, it's not normal for your rookies to be playing 100% of the snaps. And now we don't have to, because we have depth at these positions. So you can take your time with your guys that are 2nd and 3rd round picks and bring them along slowly, unless they just completely dominate. In the preseason, they forced you to put them on the field. But like you mentioned, Neighbors, no question, Abdul Carter, these guys, your 1st round picks, they're supposed to be. If you're in the top 10, you're supposed to be starting from day one. If you're not, there's a major problem there. So still, I was looking forward to seeing what the rookies do. I mean, it's their opportunity and you just want to see improvement from him. I think that's the big thing. And I'm not expecting him to go out there and dominate, but you want to see him have a little bit better game than he had. And I still think he's got a lot of potential. So I know people are like, I think you might have put it on Twitter, Anthony. It's like people were calling the guy a bust. I'm like, how can we call him that already? I mean, he hasn't even played yet. Can we give him a chance? It's funny how quick we are to judge a guy to be a star and how quick we are for them to be a bust. It's crazy. We're very impatient. We're New Yorkers. It is what it is. Sam, thank you so much. He says, who will be our kickoff and punt returners this year?
I'm leaning it'll be Smith Marset. I mean, I thought he was terrific last year. I mean, maybe Turbo Miller could take that role or somebody else at some point, but that's who I'm leaning. I thought he was great last year for the Giants when he got that opportunity the last 6 or 7 games of the year. So that's who I'm hoping is the kick returner to start the year.
Whoever can catch the ball and not fumble it. Who's going to How many times we've seen Eric Gray fumble it, Darius Slayton, but like whoever we put back there that one year, seemed like they all fumbled it.
Yeah.
But I agree. I think it's Smith Marsette's job to lose, and I think that's going to be their guy to start the year. Age 50. Thank you again, brother. Instead of a hot take, here's a wild take. Joe's 2024 plan: release Saquon, Xavier, Tyrod, and have no quarterback on the roster to tank the season. More on the next super chat. Okay. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate you. On the next super chat, Joe's 2025 plan: get Adebo, Holland, Scat, Carter, Dart, and get the Giants back on track. Joe, let us know the plan next time so fans can relax.
Go back to the beginning of that. I just want to make sure I read that properly. Go back to the first part of his
He
theory.
said, instead of a hot take, this is a wild take. Joe's 2024 plan was to get rid of everybody that we had here and have no quarterback. And
So
wipe
far,
the slate clean and tank the season. That's
Farrell's wild take was last year that the New York Giants
we
tanked.
tanked.
I appreciate that you have your wild take. You're throwing it out there, Farrell. I appreciate all that, but there's no way in hell that Joe Schoen went into last year trying to tank the season because he had no guarantees he was going to be back before the year started. And the same thing with Brian Dable. So I appreciate the out-of-the-box thinking, but I disagree. I don't think he was trying to tank the year. I think Saquon Barkley wasn't brought back because Joe Schoen and him couldn't come to a common agreement the year before, and we all knew after they tagged him, he wasn't going to come back. He was a guy that had a lot of injuries. He was 27 going on 28, and the Giants didn't have the roster to maximize him. And Shane seems to be a guy, and maybe he will adapt and grow throughout the course of being a general manager, hopefully for the next 20 years for the Giants. That means the team's doing well, who is set in his ways. And I think he was set in his ways with the safety spot too. I think he viewed that as a position where he didn't want to spend top dollar on. And he said, I'd rather invest a second round pick in a guy like Tyler Nubin and replace McKinney that way. Since he's been here, it's been pretty obvious he believes strongly in positional value. He spent big bucks on the D-line. He spent big bucks on the O-line, quarterback, wide receiver, obviously with Neighbors, cornerback, first-round pick with Deonte Banks. He believes strongly in positional value. So I don't think he was tanking. I think he just doesn't value safeties and running backs as high as the previous GM did.
I agree with age 50. Let's go. He was playing chess, not checkers. He said, I'm going to tank. That's exactly what he said. He goes, I'm going to tank, and if I don't get Cameron Ward, we're going to get Jackson. We're going to get all this stuff. No, I really wish that is what happened, but I don't know that he planned it, but that is exactly what he did. What did happen? Listen, every time for years as a Giants fan, I keep thinking we hit rock bottom. I thought when we ran back-to-back quarterback sneaks against Washington the last game of the season with Joe Judge, thought that was rock bottom. It wasn't rock bottom. I don't see how you get lower than what happened to the Giants last year. Again, it's their 100th year anniversary. They come out with the ugliest freaking uniforms you've ever seen. They get smacked in the mouth 28-6. They lose Saquon Barkley. It's shown all over Hard Knocks the way that went down. It didn't look good on Joe Schoen or the Giants. You heard John Mara say, I'd hate him to go to Philly. That's exactly where he went. He ran for 2,000 yards there and won a Super Bowl. It doesn't get worse. Yeah. So now I do believe the Giants have absolutely bottomed out and they have nowhere to go but up. And I like the direction that Joe Schoen's taken this team. I really do. This is Joe Schoen's team now. There's only a couple of Gettleman guys left.
Yeah.
This is Joe Schoen's vision. And like Chris said, hopefully this works out for the next 20 years because it means we're a competitive and a good football team. And I think this is a year that you're going to start to see results from the previous couple of years where I feel like he did really good in free agency and the draft. I do feel like that's going to pan out here on the field this year. Demon Alcohol, thank you so much for your incredible generosity. Really appreciate that. A big Ben Franklin from our guy Demon Alcohol says, hope you guys and gal get this divided up. Love the show. Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
Really, really appreciate that, man. Very
we
kind.
Gotta get him we got to get him a couple of these.
There you go.
Thank you, Demon Cloud. We appreciate it, man.
Appreciate it. Bear, thank you so much. He says, where do you guys think Chauncey Golston fits in the defense? Do you think he may be a better fit than Tibbs?
I think he fits in on I was going to say, I think he fits in on certain packages where they need to be a little bit heavier. So think like 3rd and 2, maybe 4th and 1 yard to gain on the goal line, like those kinds of packages where they need a little bit more size on the edge, where I think Kayvon Thibodeau is definitely beefed up this offseason. Definitely looks like he's added some mass to his frame and gotten stronger. But I just think that Chauncey Golston being taller, being heavier, and being one of those guys who can move onto the interior, probably a little bit better at setting the edge in some of those tight spaces where the offense is going to have a fullback out there or 2-3 tight ends out there. That's when you're going to want a guy like Chauncey Golston rather than maybe a Kayvon Thibodeau. But I don't think he fits the defense better than Tibbs. I think Thibodeau fits exactly what Shane Bowen wants to do, because ideally Shane Bowen really just wants to rush 4 guys. He just wants 4 guys to go out there and get after the quarterback. At least that's what we saw last season. He's not really into complex blitz packages and, having the safety or the nickel cornerback shoot in, nothing like that. He just wants the best 4 guys up there on the front getting after the quarterback. And I think Kayvon Thibodeau is better suited for that than Chauncey Golston. But when they're trying to stop the run, Chauncey Golston is known to be a bigger edge rusher who can move inside. And so I think in those short yardage situations, that's where you'll see him the most.
I agree with you, Anthony, that is clearly Bowen's philosophy, and I actually like that. But you need a really strong defensive line to be able to excel at that strategy and not blitzing frequently. However, I will be interested to see this year, and you're not going to see it in the preseason because they're not going to show you all the bells and whistles with the play calling. But I am interested to see with an improved secondary this year, which obviously the Giants we think have with the amount of money that they invested there in free agency. Could he be a bit more aggressive in terms of blitzing? Last year, he may have felt like he was a little bit hampered with the lack of players in the secondary to drop back in coverage. Maybe with a better secondary this year, he could be a bit more aggressive from a blitz standpoint. But yes, I agree. That's clearly his philosophy, is he wants to be able to get to you with 4 so he can maximize the guys that are out in coverage. And with this defensive line, they should be able to do it.
I think he definitely is going to blitz more. I've seen it already at camp. I've seen guys like Drew Phillips and Micah McFadden rushing the quarterback. And the thing that I like about Chauncey Golston is that I think he's a bit more versatile than Thibodeau. They picked up Tibbs' 5th-year option. He's not going anywhere, and it's going to be nice to rotate him between Burns and Carter. And I think that's really going to benefit Thibodeau the most because he seemed to be exhausted by the 4th quarter every game. So if he doesn't have to play every snap, I think that's also going to make a big difference. But Chauncey Golston was number 2 on the Cowboys behind Micah Parsons in sacks last year. And Parsons was tweeted about how upset he was to see him go. So I think they're definitely going to do what they can to try to get Golston in the rotation wherever they can, because I think he's definitely going to be a good complement piece to those 3 rushers.
Well, listen, Micah, listen, you hate seeing Chauncey go. You're a Penn State alum, as is Abdul. You are more than welcome to come over here to Big Blue and take your revenge out on those shitty-ass Cowboys. So we will welcome you with open arms if you'd like to join your ex-teammate and your Penn State alum. I don't think any Giants fan would have a problem with that. So, the door's open. I'm just throwing it out there. I know Micah watches, so no.
and I agree with both you guys' points in the sense that Golston's a bit more versatile than Kayvon. But what I will say is I'm not really worried about them being able to utilize Kayvon in this defense in terms of his lack of versatility, because I think the guy that we just drafted, Abdul Carter, is a guy that's incredibly versatile. And if you want to leave Kayvon on the edge, you can, because you could put, as we saw in the last preseason game, Abdul Carter could rush up the middle. You could do so many different things with him as a player. So I think Kayvon is just fine. They're going to find a good niche for him in this defense, and he's going to be very successful. But I agree that Golston does have a bit more versatility because of his size and his ability to play a bit in the middle.
Who do you guys think is our best blitzer? Like if Shane Bowen had to pick a certain guy, is it Drew Phillips? Is it Micah McFadden? Is it Tyler Newman? I can remember Micah McFadden being a beast on the blitz.
I think it's him. Yeah.
It's him, but I think that Drew Phillips has a pretty strong case for it, because I remember last year against the Commanders when Drew Phillips came off that blitz and got to Jaden Daniels, and then he shot that other gap for the tackle for loss on the screen. He's got really good instincts, and he gets in the backfield in a hurry when he's asked to. So I think it's a pretty close call. It's probably Micah McFadden, but it wouldn't shock me if with another year under his belt here, if Drew Phillips ends up being that valuable blitz piece for this defense.
Doesn't hurt to have, that kind of depth when it comes to blitzing. But I do remember, I think it was his rookie year, Micah McFadden was amazing on the blitz. So if you do bring an extra man and you just think about how much focus is going to be on the front four of this team. You bring that extra guy, you got to think it's going to be extremely difficult for an offense to pick up a blitzing Drew Phillips or a blitzing Micah McFadden when you got to double somebody. I mean, you can't. Yeah. Dex is going to have to be doubled. I think if you're going to double one person, it's got to be Dexter Lawrence, which just leaves the edge rushers free. But if you double Dex, you're leaving Abdul Carter one-on-one. Are you going to double Carter and leave Dex one-on-one? You're going to try to double them both, and then you got Brian Burns.
And what do you do? What do you do if you got Carter also lined up in the middle next to Dex? Who do you double then?
Yeah. The defense has so much potential, and for Bowen, who may incorporate more of a blitzing scheme this year, he also doesn't have to now, because you would think you should be able to get pressure with this front four. So that really goes to his strength, which isn't blitzing so much. But I'm just thinking of all the things that he's got to be staying up at night, not because he's worried, but thinking, God, what can I do here? All the options that he has now. His mouth has to be watering. What can I throw at these guys? I know if I was a defensive coordinator, I would be. So I don't know how you're not pumped.
He's got a chance to really redeem himself this year, and I hope he does.
Yeah. This is a good question from H50. Thank you, brother. He says, do we play Russ and then trade Russ before the deadline if Dart is ready?
The only reason I think that they wouldn't do that is because, I don't know, now that I'm thinking about this, I'm like, I don't know. So I was thinking before, is there a possibility that they trade Tommy DeVito? Because from what I've heard, which I think this is insane, but people in the Giants building think that Tommy DeVito is not going to clear waivers and that other teams are going to sign him. Which
the Jets would.
I think somebody could sign him, but I don't think he would have much trade value. But he could be a third string quarterback somewhere. I wouldn't be stunned if a team signs him if the Giants don't roster him.
So then I'm like, do they think about trading him? If they're so worried that he's not going to make waivers, but what else are you going to do with him? Yeah. You're not keeping him over Winston or Russ. So but then now I'm thinking about this question. I'm like, if DeVito is not on the practice squad and you don't have a fourth quarterback, then what do you do in that scenario? Because we know they've all had issues with that. You have to have a third string quarterback.
Yeah.
But I do think someone would be more likely to trade for Russ, obviously, than they would DeVito.
I think it depends on a record.
Yeah, it depends on circumstance around the league. Like, is there a team that views themselves as a team like similar to the Steelers, like last year, that had a very good team and they're a decent quarterback away from being able to compete for the playoffs, that suddenly needs a quarterback? Does a quarterback go down, and are they willing to trade for Russell Wilson? But I doubt it. I think Russ plays out the year as the Giant, is a leader for the team. And if Russ is playing well, maybe you're able to get a comp pick for him next year. We all know what quarterbacks go for when they hit free agency. Maybe you end up getting a third or fourth round comp pick for Russell Wilson if a team gives him a Sam Darnold-like contract next year. It's not crazy to think that. So I don't think they'll trade him. But it's a possibility.
Yeah. My theory is that Russ is going to retire a Giant next offseason. I think if you look at the stage of his career, he's 36 years old. He'll be 37 next offseason, and he's going to be playing for his third team in 3 seasons now. Is he going to make it a fourth? I don't know. That seems a little bit ridiculous. At that point, you and your celebrity wife probably just call it quits.
Anthony, let's say he has a year similar to last year, where what did he throw? He had good stats last year, we said, right?
I think he had 26 touchdowns and 8 picks or so.
There's a year like that this year with the Giants, and the team wins 7 or 8 games, and a team comes knocking and says, okay, yeah, we'll give you $25-30 million a year for 3 years. You think he would retire at that point?
Possibly. I mean, you're saying he's going to have that stat line, but probably still by the end of the season get replaced by a rookie quarterback. So he's clearly, I don't think there's really an avenue here for him to earn that second contract, because I don't think he's going to be in the lineup long enough.
Oh, he won't be with the Giants. I'm saying elsewhere, not here. He's not going to.
No. I know what you're saying, but I know that we want to see Jackson Dart start in week 15 or whatever. I think he's probably going to start by week 8. I just think that that's how the Giants they're going to feel really strongly about Dart. And if they think that he's ready, the ceiling for him and the potential to win games this season exponentially increases. Like, if you think about it from this perspective, what you were saying earlier, Chris, about this defensive line and how this team should not win any less than 6, 7, 8 games, right? With this defensive line and this team, Now imagine if you have a young quarterback step in and elevate this roster the same way that some of these other young quarterbacks have. If that can be a spark plug for you mid-season where you think your ceiling is 7 or 8 wins, and then all of a sudden you're convinced this kid's really good, I believe in him, now our ceiling can be 11 wins and maybe we can go on some crazy run into the playoffs. That could be Brian Dable's mindset mid-season. So I really just don't see a world where Russ actually plays enough to get a second contract that's unlike the one that he just got this offseason. And at that point, I think he would end up retiring.
Again, I think because he's 37, it's not quite like Sam Darnold, who was only 27. Yeah. I think Darnold is still a young guy where, Ross is getting up there. I don't know if anybody would want to give him 3 years because that would put him at 40, but maybe a team. I mean, if Russ feels like he could go to a team that maybe could win another Super Bowl, and even if it's like if somebody says, hey, we'll give you $15 million and you're a backup or whatever, I mean, who knows? Russ has nothing left to prove. He's won a Super Bowl. He's played in 2. He's a 10-time Pro Bowler. He's going to Canton. He has nothing to prove. And, Anthony, I think he's always wanted to be a Giant. And he might, like you said, he might just say, you know what, let me go out as a New York Giant. But you never know, man. The competitive juices flow, and it's hard for some guys to hang it up. I'm not saying Russell Wilson's one of those guys, but a lot of guys don't want to leave. They enjoy the camaraderie. They enjoy the competition. They enjoy what they do. So it's hard to step away, especially if he has a good year, and somebody does want to give him money. If he still feels he can play and be productive for another team, maybe he does. I hope we have that problem. I hope Russ has that decision to make because he had a good year here.
If Anthony's right and Dart sees the field by week 8, that's not going to happen. I
hope that you don't. I hope Russell Wilson plays good enough.
Longer than that. Yeah.
I hope Russ plays good enough where the Giants we can't bench this guy. We can't.
Yeah.
We're too hot right now.
I'll just pose this question. I'll try not to go on for too long because I know we've already hit the hour mark. But if we're let's use the term mid. If we're a mid team, middle of the road team.
Yeah.
Would you not want to turn it to the quarterback who could potentially, if you feel like you're just a quarterback away at that point, right? Like the team is kind of mid because you've got a middle of the pack quarterback. If from the perspective of Brian Dable, you've got this stacked defensive line. You've got this great defense. You have Malik Neighbors, assuming he's fully healthy mid-season and he's going for 1,000 yards again and then some. Would you not want to get that spark plug and try and become a playoff team overnight?
If you feel he's at that point where he could be that guy like Jaden Daniels was last year for the Commanders and he completely elevated the team, of course you throw him in there. I'm just
Dable's going to feel that way.
The Giants aren't going to feel that way for a guy that was drafted near the back end of the first round. I think they're going to think he needs a little bit more time to develop. This isn't the same thing as like Eli Manning when he was drafted first overall and the team was, 5-3 or whatever.
They're 5-4, yeah.
5-4, and I think this is more of a situation where they could exude more patience. But I could be wrong. I mean, if the team's doing really poorly, I definitely think they'll pull the trigger sooner than I want them to. But if they're around 500, Anthony, I actually think they get to the bye with Dart until he comes in at quarterback.
I actually think Eli's a perfect example there because they were a mid-team. That was the number 1 overall pick. They had every reason to turn to him even earlier, but they were a middle-of-the-road team. And even though they had a chance to go to the playoffs, what's the point in being a middle-of-the-road, barely even a playoff team? And they were like, let's see if the quarterback gives us a turnaround or at least we get him some reps. I think that's how it's going to be with Dart. I actually think their careers are going to start out very similarly. Ole Miss quarterbacks, former Super Bowl champion quarterback. I think it's going to be.
Eli was awful his rookie year.
I hope they end the same.
I think Dart's going to be better as a rookie than Eli was, though. Personally,
it would be nearly impossible for him not to be. That's one of the all-time worst rookies ever by a quarterback.
The one thing I'll say, Anthony, because you mentioned that middle of the road, and I was going to bring up Eli because the Giants were 5-4, just kind of treading water in the middle of the pack. It makes more sense to do this with Dart than Eli for a couple of reasons. I understand Eli was the first overall pick in the draft, so you wanted to see him earlier. But Tom Coughlin had just become the coach that year. His job wasn't in jeopardy. If the Giants aren't really good here or they're middle of the road and maybe, Dable and Shane think their jobs are on the line, it makes more sense to go, like you said, listen, we're good enough to be middle of the road here. So let's bring this rookie in. We feel like he's ready to go. Maybe it gives us a spark. And if he starts winning some games, then that they're set. So I think more so for their job security, if they feel his team is good enough to where they can plug him in and win games, it's just going to give them more security. So it'll be interesting to see. I really hope they're in the middle of the road by week 8 or week 9, and they have to make that decision. That'd be great.
Yeah. I think I originally would have said no, but now that I have heard the way that Dable talks about Dart, the way that he has progressed probably faster than we expected him to. And again, I don't think he should be starting week 1. I don't think he's perfect. I want to see Russell. He needs to improve. And I think the best case scenario is that we don't see him that early. But if they are in a scenario where they're 5-5 and they have a shot at the playoffs based on what's happening in the NFC, I could 100% see Dable saying, we think Jackson Dart is going to bring a spark to this offense. He's ready. We're going to put him out there for XYZ, whatever, just like he did with Tommy DeVito. Oh, Tommy DeVito is going to bring a spark to this offense. He's going to give us the best chance to win. He will 100% verbatim say that about Dart if that's the case, because at that point, he'll think, well, we still have a shot at the playoffs. Why not see what Dart can do? You know, they probably would feel confident enough to think that if Russ got them 5 wins but didn't look amazing, then, well, Jackson Dart has progressed enough at this point. We know the offensive line is blocking well enough. Neighbors is always going to get open. Slayton and Wandale at that point, Theo Johnson, like, if they have 5 wins at that point, the offense is doing more than enough to win, that if they want to take it to that next level, I 100% could see Dable being like, we're going to put him out there and see what happens, because we know he's not going to be worse than Russ. Now, whether or not that's true, I think that's what he's going to sell to us.
Yeah, we know how Dable goes for sure. Seraph Network, thanks so much. I want to see pass rushers used rotationally. I think you will.
Yeah.
There's enough where you will definitely see that happen.
That's what the Eagles have done for years. That, you know, I remember looking at their snap counts a couple of years ago and comparing them to our pass rushers. They have some of the best pass rushers in the game, but they only take 65, 70%, 75% snap count because they're so deep there. And I think that's exactly what you want, because at the end of the day, you want them to be as fresh as possible to close out the game. So, that might be the most important position in the sport, to have depth for that reason. So, I agree. I'd rather see that than the NASCAR package where they're all out there on every single play. I want them to be somewhat rested so they can close out the game when it matters most.
Absolutely. Our guy SPP, again from across the pond, one of the beat reporters, said Bowen believes in installing the defense in the first year, adding complexity in the second year, so we could see more exotic packages. Looks like Carter's all over so far. Yeah, I mean, I definitely think when you have guys like Carter, you have a lot of versatility. There's no doubt about it, because your secondary is also a lot stronger too. So it definitely wouldn't surprise me if we did see some exotic blitz packages and different types of things that they can do. He's definitely got a lot more to work with this year than he did last year. There's so much more depth on this team, and your rookies are now second-year guys. Your guys like Tyler Newman and Drew Phillips, who played a ton of snaps last year, are acclimated to the system. So all these guys are acclimated to the system outside of the rookies and like Holland and Adebo, but I definitely think there's a lot to work with. And like I said, I think Shane Bowen is staying up nights, not because he's concerned, but he's just thinking, God, what can I do with this team? I can tell you this, he better do something, because if he can't make this work, man, that guy ain't going to have a job much longer in the NFL. You really can't hand a guy a better situation.
Yeah, there might not be a guy on this team with more pressure this year than Shane Bowen, with all the pieces they gave him this offseason.
True.
He's got no excuses.
Yeah.
Jerry O'Connor, thank you so much for the $2 donation. Appreciate you supporting the Giants Collective show. Thank you, my friend. Cruzon, thank you for supporting the show. He says, who's the best defensive tackle, nose tackle on the Giants to stop the run besides Dex? I can't lie, stopping the run is on my mind a lot. Tomorrow's a huge test.
I think that's what yet to be determined. I they have a lot of guys there that are kind of competing for that secondary role next to Dex. So I think the next 2 weeks, that's something that I think a lot of Giants fans are going to have their eye on, the other defensive tackle spot opposite Dex potentially. So I don't think that's settled yet.
Yeah, I think right now, Roy Robertson Harris and Nacho are probably the top 2 front runners. And I think we're going to see both of them tomorrow, but Harris is probably going to get more playing time than Nacho. So we'll see if he can eclipse Nacho for the starting role.
Harris played well last week.
He did.
He definitely made an impact early in that game. He looked really good. But again, man, I'm going to keep saying it. I know our run defense is a big question, but I truly believe the numbers look worse because our team was behind late in games. and teams just ran the ball down our throat, and our defense being on the field all the time because the offense couldn't sustain drives, tired them out. Teams just leaned on the Giants. And again, those 2 and 3 yard gains in the first quarter become 8 and 18 yard gains in the fourth quarter when your defense is tired. And to all your points tonight, there was no depth. So these guys played so many snaps. So they were exhausted. You got more depth. You should have a better offense. And the Giants should be in a lot of these games where teams just can't line up and run the ball down their throat. I think all those together should help the run defense. We're not going to be a top 10 run defense, but I don't think it's going to be as bad as it was last year just because of those things alone. But again, yet to be determined what they do there. I think that's an open competition next to Dex.
Yeah.
Bear, thank you again, brother. One of the games I'm looking forward to is against the Chiefs Sunday night.
Yeah.
Do you think you match up good against them? Should I take the money line?
I don't know what the money line is. I don't know what the odds are. What I will say is, I think. I mean, I don't even know what the spread is for that game. And that
we won't. We don't know who's playing.
Well, I think they have like the preseason spreads for every week, but it changes obviously as the game gets closer. I think I would take the Giants with the points in that game because at least in recent history, the Chiefs seem to not blow teams out. They seem to keep games interesting, and I think that'll be a close game. I would obviously pick the Chiefs to win because they're the freaking Chiefs, but I think it'll be a close game. I think the Giants will keep that game close.
I think that we would match up decent against them because, again, their offense was not as great as Mahomes is, and he's, next level amazing. Their offense wasn't good last year. It really wasn't. They won a lot of games at the end of the game, and they blocked field goals and just weird things where they just won. The Giants defense, but the Chiefs defense is really good. I mean, that's what kept their
defense is elite. Yeah, their defense is
so
elite.
I could see it being a low-scoring game. I think we'll be in that game. Like Chris says, I just think at the end of the day, I don't think the Chiefs are a better team than us at the end of the day. But it's our home opener, and if the Giants get off to a 2-0 start and feel confident, you never know.
That's why we watch.
Yeah.
Illusions, thank you so much. Content creators on TikTok absolutely hate Jay Dart. I have no idea why. Well, they're TikTok. All they do is reference the Florida game. Love this show. I'm not directly on TikTok, so I don't know. But you're always going to have people that don't like him. You're going to have people that want Shedeur Sanders. You always just – there's definitely people that just have their favorites. And if their favorite's not a Giant, they will knock the person that kind of took the spot away. So I guess it depends on where you go. Because if you go to Twitter, there's actually a lot of people that are high on Jackson Dart. So maybe it's just the platform. I don't know. I'm not on TikTok, so I don't know how that goes.
I did see after I think we all saw it because it was also on Twitter, but I feel like after the first preseason game when everyone was just glazing Shedeur Sanders and acted like he was light years better than Dart, I'm like, maybe you guys didn't watch the Giants game. Why are we even comparing them? Like, why aren't we talking about Cam Ward, who was the first overall pick? Like, it's just crazy at this point. I literally was arguing with someone about it. And I was like, give me one reason why Shedeur Sanders was that much better than Jackson Dart. And he goes, he had 2 touchdowns in the game. I was like, are you fucking kidding? Really? That's your answer? Just so stupid. But
I don't know why. I don't know the connection with Shedeur and the Giants. I'll never be able to figure that out. That's just mainstream media wanting to push a narrative. I don't understand. Every team passed it. It wasn't just the Giants.
5 times.
I know. It's not like the Giants went up to the podium and said Jackson Dart. And as soon as that happened, the Rams were like, Shedeur Sanders. It's not like when we took Daniel Jones and the Jags ran up and go Josh Allen. It's much different. The Rams go, we're going back to 46. And then remember, Cleveland took Dylan Gabriel before Shedeur Sanders. So why is this a Giants thing? I for the life of me, can't figure that out. And as I said on Twitter, I can't speak for all Giants fans. I don't think anybody's sitting and going, oh, God, I hope Shedeur Sanders sucks. I hope he's good. I want Dart to be better, but I hope Shedeur Sanders is good. Shedeur Sanders is hurt. He's not going to play this week. He's got an oblique strain. And you talk about some things that linger, that's another one. I've had those, and those suck. And when you're whipping the ball, there's a lot of torque in your oblique when you're throwing a football. So who knows? I wish him a speedy recovery, but I'll never understand why it's Shedeur Sanders against Jackson Dart. I just
at the end of the
That
day,
was my thing. I'm like, leave us alone.
right.
At the end of the day, Bad Dog, anybody that's saying that Jackson Dart is great or shitty at this point doesn't know what the hell they're talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
The quarterback
He didn't even play a whole game.
It's a complete unknown. You can't judge that position for at least a year or two. So it's completely unpredictable. So both sides of it. If people are saying he's the second coming of Tom Brady, or if people are saying he's garbage, they don't know. They have no idea what they're talking about. Let's let the guys play a couple of years before we analyze and come
right.
to
Exactly.
conclusion whether they.
I hope Shedeur Sanders does well. I think Shedeur Sanders has taken a lot of shit. I really do. Like, I don't know if you guys saw, I posted on Twitter today how, like, Yahoo Sports saying, "Oh, this is heartbreaking. He didn't sign for a kid." I'm like, man, you don't know the situation. What if there's 40 people there asking for his autograph, and then how many autographs can he sign? Because if he doesn't sign every autograph, oh, he left this guy, he left that guy. These guys can't win. I also saw a video of Joe Burrow. Yeah, going to his car at 2 a.m. and turning out autographs, and he had like 6 cameras in his face. And I'm like, I can't imagine that life. I don't like people 6 feet within me, so I can't imagine somebody sticking their camera in my face and I'm walking to my car. I'm not that famous, so I ain't got to worry about that. But I just can't imagine what these guys go through. Just leave Shedeur Sanders the hell alone. Let him play.
Let him focus on football.
Exactly.
So stupid.
It is. Hockey Pro, thank you so much. Excited for the pass rush this season, and thank God that Stiff Jones is gone. Dart's personality is the exact opposite. Dunleavy, Andy too. We're going to send him to Philly because he obviously has some kind of fixation about Saquon Barkley.
So we'll just Saquon. I've never seen anything
telling
like
you, I said it in the group chat. I legitimately think like Dunleavy is on Saquon's payroll. Like this guy is still talking about. He covers the Giants. He's still talking.
He's the mole.
It's insane.
The fixation is unbelievable. Ryan, he ain't gonna sleep with you, little bro. Just let him go, man. Let him go. I don't like Ryan Dunleavy too much. He's on my shit list. You don't want to be there. It takes a lot to get there. And he's there. So, like I said, if you follow me on Twitter, you know that tweet blew up. I didn't expect it to. Just voicing my displeasure in. The
funniest thing about that tweet to me, Bad Dog, was you didn't even say anything bad.
I didn't say anything.
For him to call that nasty, I was like, bro, you got to get some thick skin. People have said shit to me 100 times
worse.
Bad Dog didn't even personally attack him. He just disagreed with his opinion.
Ryan personally attacked Bad Dog. He said this is the dumbest take.
This is the dumbest argument. And I'm like, bro, Saquon
fire back at him, which is tame for Bad Dog. Normally he would. He didn't even fire back at him. He was respectful throughout the entire back and forth, and he blocked. It made no sense to me.
And then about 100 people cooked his ass there in defense of me, which I loved. I was like, thank you guys. I appreciate you having my back. Because I did. I just said, listen, I'm like, number one, comparing a left tackle or running back is a false equivalence. I said, dude, Saquon Barkley came off his lowest yards per carry. He didn't have 1,000 yards. I'm like, you can't accumulate great players when you give up 85 sacks in the line and you overpay a running back. That was all I said to him. I didn't go, you're an asshole, eat, whatever. I didn't say anything, which, like Chris said, that is more my personality. If you saw it when he blocked me, that's my personality. That's the way I am when somebody goes after me. But I didn't. I was extremely respectful to him, and he blocked me, and I'm like, dude, what a bitch. Like, okay, I made you look foolish. I had a good argument. You don't like that. Mainstream media don't like that. You know why, content creators? Because when they look bad from just the average people like us and they went to school for this stuff, they go, oh, man, I might lose my clicks to this guy because he made me look like a clown. Just keep doing what you're doing.
The fact that Dunleavy, who sucks, by the way.
Dunleavy. Put the G in there.
There's plenty of very good Giants beat reporters. Him and Pat Leonard are near the back of the pack for me. But the fact that he tried to use James Cook's contract as a barometer for what the Giants should have done with Saquon Barkley is moronic. James Cook played 3 years in the league.
You're blocked, Chris. You're blocked.
He played 3 years in the league. He didn't miss a single game. Okay. Had Saquon Barkley done the same thing his first 3 years, the Giants would have extended him just like the Buffalo Bills did James Cook. We all know, anybody with a brain knows, the reason why Saquon wasn't extended from the jump after 3 years when you could first extend the player was because he tore his freaking ACL and he couldn't stay on the field. James Cook plays for a Super Bowl contender. That's a team that can afford to pay a running back like the Eagles did with Saquon. The Giants were in rebuild mode. It was just a stupid comparison from the beginning. I can't believe he's a beat reporter. It just boggles my mind.
And that was my point. And it was very respectful. And he blocked me. And then I was like, all right.
And I'm sorry, I don't know if he goes on your guys' channels. I know he goes on Bobby's chat. I think the guy's an idiot.
What can I tell you? Don't mess with the bad dog. You'll get bit. That's all. I was nice to him. He told me he said this is the dumbest argument. And I didn't go back to him at all. I just explained
why does everyone agree? Why, like most Giants fans now, I think are at the point where even if last year or closer to the Super Bowl, they were like, oh, we should have kept Saquon, whatever. I think at this point, everyone's over it. And they're like, whatever, he's not a Giant anymore. They obviously didn't keep him. Like, we're moving on. Why does everything have to be brought back to Saquon? He's not on the team anymore. No one's talking about Aziz, who's also an Eagle, or James Bradbury, or like a million other Giants players who went to other teams and also were successful. Kadarius Toney won a Super Bowl with the Chiefs. And he was the world's worst Giant. Like, it's so insane.
Yeah, like I said, if Barkley went to the Texans, we forget about him by week 3. It's because he's on Philadelphia. But I even said Eagle fans trolled the shit out of us last year. Thanks. And good for them. If the roles reversed, I would do that to them too. Thanks for Saquon. Thanks for Saquon. But guess what? Eagle fans have moved on from it now. So I don't know why some Giants beat writers or fans still talk about this. He's not coming back. He'll never be a Giant again. He's not wanted here. Screw him. He went to the enemy. It is what it is. We have Tyrone Tracy.
We know why. It's the same reason why the beat reporters talked about OBJ for 2 or 3 years after he left the Giants, because it generates clicks. It generates. That's why. But it's stupid.
It generated Bad Dog and Ryan Dunleavy. We didn't want that smoke. I can tell you that. That's PB. Thank you so much. He said, "Who?" That's why you got to follow me on Twitter. You never know what the hell you're getting there. Who's Shador? Is he on the Giants? No.
Nope.
Never heard of him.
Never. Yeah. Who's she? I don't know.
The only thought that I have on Shador, and it's not even related to the Giants, just looking at the way the draft went, I almost really do wish that the Browns drafted Travis Hunter, now knowing that they took Shador Sanders in the fifth round. If they would have played together, even in just the preseason, and Shador didn't start in the regular season, it just would have been cool to see.
They screwed that up.
That's a great point, Anthony. Do you think they ever really intended to draft Shador Sanders?
No, I feel like if they did, they probably would have been more incentivized to take Travis, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't know.
Right. They could have had him at 2 and Sanders at 33.
Yeah.
Although Jacksonville did give them a lot for that pick. But because Anthony just mentioned that, I do believe that Cleveland never intended of drafting him. And that's why they took Dylan Gabriel first. But it got to a point where they're like, well, shit, I mean, he's still there. What if Dylan Gabriel don't work out? We got Kenny Pickett and Joe Flacco. Let's give Shador Sanders a try.
Maybe they'll take Tommy DeVito because they need more quarterbacks.
Yeah, they don't.
Everyone's injured, and Joe Flacco's like 100. So, you know,
easy on the old guy. Joe Flacco and I are applying for our AARP card here very soon. H50, thank you, brother. He says, can't wait to play the Browns one year so we can see Shador will run backwards and get sacked and target 6 touchdowns. That would be, the first time those two meet. That'll be prime time. That'll be a prime time.
Zena Anderson is going to have a heart attack.
Yeah, if they meet, like everybody, and I like Shador. I think Shador is going to be good, but it's not like a lock that Shador is ever going to be like a legitimate starting quarterback in the NFL. He's a 5th round pick.
Yeah.
He's the 4th on the depth chart for the Browns.
I think he will. I think he will get his opportunity. And I think he'll be a solid quarterback in the NFL, but it's not a lock, though, that he's even ever going to be a starter.
Nothing is a lock, not even Drew. And thank God he's not here anymore either. Drew Lock. Speaking of Josine Anderson, see, she didn't block me when I tagged her and said, how about you like them apples when CBS named Jackson Dart the #1 pick? And I was fooling around, I was messing with her, and she didn't block me. And some people are just soft.
She wants the engagement. That's why.
That's
what she goes at Giants fans as much as she does. She wants the engagement.
Yeah, she loves to go at Giants fans. It is what it is. With that said, that brings us to the close of another edition of Giants Collective. We really appreciate all your support tonight. Thank you guys so much for all your support on this channel. Tonight's show is brought to us by our good friends at SeatGeek. Again, click the link in the description and use that promo code Giants Collective and get $20 off your first purchase at SeatGeek, as Anthony is showing you down below. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. It helps us out huge. You can check us out on Spotify, Apple, iHeart, wherever you get your podcasts. All those are in the description. TikTok, Instagram, Giants Collective as well. And if you want to become a member and support Giants Collective that way, just click the join button. You get your name in the outro. You get monthly member messages, and you get to use those really cool emojis, which you're definitely going to want to use once the season gets started. So for Adriana, I think I said her name I think I said it right every time tonight. Good
Nailed
job,
it.
Bad dog. Chris, we got one end of the gun. And Anthony and SPP is going to close out. Say great show. Great show as always.
And Landon, by the way, with that comment also above it, you better be right. He says, I think Jackson Dart will start a playoff game early January 2026.
That would be.
I think I can get behind. I hope you're right, Landon.
Awesome.
Yep.
Thank you guys so much. Enjoy your weekend. Giants get a big game tomorrow. Chris and I will have it for you as well. So enjoy your weekend. We'll see you soon. Giants Collective, and we out. Whoops. You know what? I have to go. I got to do something here real quick because I took this off and now I got to add it again. All right. Just as we go. All right. Now, enjoy your weekend, everybody. We out.